Good evening, everybody. My name is Carolina Moreno, and I am the Director of EL Services and Migrant Program within our district. I am incredibly excited. I'm going to move back here. I'm sorry. So we are recording our meeting today. I received several phone calls from parents letting me know I won't be able to attend. How do I get the information, or will it be recorded? So we are recording it. So the team is going to try to stay in this area so that we can record, so we can post it on our website. I would like to introduce our team. The team composed of teachers are classified, our chief academic officer, and I'll introduce you in just a second. We have been working most of this year to get ready to begin our dual language immersion here in Los Baños. So I'm very, very excited about that. So let me start with our introductions. How do I? You have a clicker?
Oh yeah, it's right there.
Oh, there you go.
Up and down. Up and down.
Up and down. Up and down.
No?
There we go. No?
No, you're printing.
No, I did.
You're printing.
I'm printing. I will get this. All right, so our DLI team is composed of Ms. Renee Leonard. She is the principal of LPE and the principal of our DLI program. That's okay. Wrong way. We have Lorraine Jurado. She is the administrative secretary here in for LPE. We have Ms. Thelma Blair, kindergarten teacher. Laura Borrego, she is an ELD teacher at the high school, Los Baños High School. Janet Oropesa, she is our DLAC president and parent. Myself, we have Mr. Eric Sowersby, Director of Elementary Schools. Dr. Sean Ritchie, our Chief Academic Officer. Jessica Moran, she's a school board member who is at the school board meeting tonight. We have Carolina Garcia, our secretary, who's been doing a lot of the legwork. And then we have Natalie Langoria. She is our CABE consultant. She is the one who has been guiding us through the whole process of creating and getting ready to begin our dual immersion program here in Los Baños. Oh.
You need that clicker?
Oh, I need that clicker. I'm not used to having anything in my hands. So with that said, what is our dual language immersion program, or DLI? And we will have a time at the end of our presentation for any questions that you may have. So if you have questions that are coming up during our presentation, jot them down. Maybe or perhaps we will answer your questions before the end of the presentation. So our DLI program is our dual language immersion, which is a one way to learn academic content while acquiring another language at the same time. For Los Baños Unified School District, it will be Spanish and English, and Spanish will be the language of instruction. So in kindergarten, and we'll hear more about it, but we'll start with kindergarten, 90-10, and I will stop right there. We do have a video, let's see if this works, that talks a little bit about what our DLI program is. Are you going to help me do this? Because it is a very long video, we're going to show small clippets of the video, but when you have it on our website, you can see it all.
This one has like a motion sensor. So
Bilingualism has so many advantages.
I know that having that bilingual background is going to open so many more doors for me.
And ability to be bilingual is a huge gift.
students that are a result of strong bilingual education outperform all other students.
The future of California is built on multilingualism.
I'm like super good with two languages.
Today, I am proposing that all of our K-12 students, parents, and educators travel on the road to a multilingual California, a global California 2030. We need to aim higher. We have those who are dreamers who believe we can have all of our students graduate bilingual, and that's an ultimate goal. By 2030, to have a much larger percentage of our students graduating is a wonderful goal, and it's attainable. And we're going to keep working with each of the LEAs, the school districts, to make sure they prioritize it in their budgets. We can do this. Stacey Whiting, right? Stacey Whiting.
English learners who really have been historically underserved in an English immersion program.
Do you guys want to sing the Good Morning song? Yeah.
The critical years of language development are 0 to 8 years old. That is the time when the brain is wired for language. So it's so important that we're at the earliest ages building on the assets that kids bring and their overall innate curiosity for learning. Children that are enrolled in bilingual education truly benefit. You're able to get the seal of biliteracy here in California. So that's something that is beneficial for them. It makes them more marketable, more employable, more access to information, because they're really dominant in 2 languages versus 3.
What I hear most from parents is that they're worried that kids will be confused if they're being taught in 2 different languages. And really, it's just the opposite. Most of the scientific research says that students, if they are learning in 2 languages and simultaneously, it actually excels their brain development, which in the long run really helps them with future academic success.
Now is actually the optimal time that we don't think of bilingual education or bilingualism as an add-on to the teaching, but actually as part and parcel of learning to teach.
We're at this really exciting, important moment in history where California has really caught up with what the research tells us about language development and bilingualism and its huge benefits, and the state has actually embraced bilingualism as a direction.
I guess I'm sort of issuing a challenge to the rest of California, because as I do the math, we're about a little less than 10% of statewide enrollment of students. And if we're going to have 50,000 kids bilingual, bicultural, I think that target needs to be a lot higher, and the rest of the state has to join the game.
We know that that requires a level of investment in our teachers, a level of investment in leadership, and a common direction that'll build pathways from preschool up through high school. Whoa.
Okay, the mission of our dual language program for Los Banos Unified School District, LBUSD believes that one of the biggest gifts we can give our students is bilingualism. Therefore, we commit to ensure that students are bilingual, biliterate, and cross-culturally aware learners. Our DLI program will prepare our students for a global, ever-changing and competitive world. Our students will be self-confident individuals who feel connected to 2 cultures, 2 languages, and their community.
Overall proficient bilinguals outperform monolinguals in creativity, problem solving, mental flexibility, attention to detail, working memory, conflict management, and the ability to change between tasks with ease.
So one of the questions is, what do our dual language emergent students, what will they be able to do? They'll be able to demonstrate high levels of academic achievement in Spanish and English, communicate effectively in both languages, socially and academically, understand and develop an appreciation for diverse cultures, value, contribute to, and connect with their diverse community and family members, and most of all, take pride and be self-confident in their bilingualism. Okay, and the program model that we are going to follow is going to be the 90-10 program. That is where in kindergarten, the students are going to receive instruction in Spanish 90% of the time, and then 10% in English. And every year after that, the Spanish will decrease by 10% and the English will increase by 10%. So first grade is going to be 80-20, second grade is going to be 70-30, third 60-40, and then fourth, fifth, and sixth is going to be 50-50. For the remainder of the 3 years, the instruction is going to be equally 50% English and Spanish. And because we are starting with a K-1, the first grade, the incoming first graders is going to be, it's going to look a little different for that cohort, for their years in the bilingual program. They, even though originally the 90-10 model in first grade, it starts with a 90-10, 80-20, the first graders are going to start with a 90-10. And then they're going to go second grade 80-20, third grade 70-30, and fourth grade, it's supposed to be 50-60. I mean 50-50, sorry. But we're going to do 60-40 to begin with, and then we are going to evaluate the students at that time, maybe mid-year of fourth grade, go to 50-50 so they get half a year of 50-50. If not, they will remain on the 60-40 and then only get 2 years of 50-50. It just depends how the students are going to come in first grade. But we feel confident that they will be able to go to 50-50 at least mid-year of fourth grade. But if not, they'll be doing 60-40 and then 50-50 the last 2 years.
Okay, and this is our dual language immersion program expansion. So next year, like I said, we are starting with our kindergarten and first grade, 2 kindergarten classes, 2 first grade classes, and then for the 24-25 school year, we will expand that to have the 2 second grade classes, because our first graders will roll up to second grade. So you can see each year we will expand until we get to 28-29 school year, where it will be full K-6, at least 2 classes wide. That will be dual language on the LBE campus.
So some dates that we need to keep in mind are the completion of the DLI program request form. Let me move back here. And that is when kindergarten registrations opens up next week, February 21st. So the request for or petitioning to be in the DLI program begins then and ends April 12th. The lottery will be held Wednesday, April 19th, and the acceptance letters, or whether your child was accepted to the DLI program based on the lottery, or whether they're on a wait list, will be sent out April 28th. And then we will ask parents to return that acceptance letter by May 19th. If parents do not return it by May 19th, then that spot will be given to the person or the child who was in the wait list. So that is all the information we have for you. If you have questions, this is the time that you can ask. We did have some informational pamphlets in the back with questions you may have, concerns that they may be answered. But if you want to have any questions for us now, this is the time. And I'm gonna give you the mic so that we can hear.
So if you have an older sibling who has accepted the program, does the younger sibling automatically enroll, or are they on a lottery as well, later on? I have a 3-year-old.
So if you're
6-year-old and 3-year-old.
So we, as the team has worked on that, knowing that that'll happen, the child will, if you have another child coming in and your child is already in the DLI program, your child will be in the DLI program.
They get priority.
They get, right, they have priority.
I'll pass it around.
My question is similar, but we'll have 2 children entering the lottery at the same time. Twins.
So if one gets chosen, does the other one also get priority?
Yes.
Thank you.
Once the February 21st date hits, where would we be looking for that QR code? Would it be sent home with the students or posted online?
That's a great question. It is going to be posted on every school site's website and the district website. Feel free to come up and help answer questions.
Are teachers planning on moving up with the students? So their first grade teacher, do they then go with them to second grade, or are you hiring other teachers as we move on?
We will be needing to hire the teachers as we grow our program.
Okay, and then real quick, in addition to that, if a teacher goes out on maternity leave or an extended period of time, how does that look for the instruction? I'm not meaning like, a couple of days they're absent or sick, but for maternity leave, we're looking at 3 months of, is that substitute gonna be qualified as well?
They're going to have to be. Because we're investing in a dual language immersion program, so part of it is that we have to plan for the fact when that happens. And someone goes on maternity leave, then congratulations to them, but we still have to think what's going to happen to the students who are still there. If it's at 90-10 in kindergarten or 80-20 in first grade, that teacher still has to be qualified. Whoever comes in has to be qualified to teach in a dual language immersion program. We're not we're actually really late to the game. Throughout the Central Valley, there are dual language immersion programs all over. I was on the board of a dual language immersion charter school about 15 years ago. And that is something that school wrestled with. So that's something that this team is working with the plan for, to have a cadre of substitutes who are qualified to teach in the dual language immersion program.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is, how many students will be in each classroom for the dual?
We will have the same amount of students that there are in the regular classroom. I believe kindergarten is 31. Kindergarten and first are 31, yes.
Hi, good evening. I have a 2-part question actually. The first is, I see on the pamphlet or the flyer that it says, the question is, will 2 languages confuse my child or slow down his or her academic progress? It says, however, moving children in and out of the program should be avoided. What happens, seeing as how this is a brand new program, for the children that are enrolled in the program and they are just having difficulty or they are struggling? What happens to those children? What is the game plan? That's my first question. And my second question is, what if you have a student that, like my son for instance, he is on an IEP and he has an inclusion specialist, and would he, if he was chosen in the lottery, how are his needs going to be met or be addressed, seeing as that he does have some special needs, like he is on an IEP?
So we'll start with the first one and then I'll let Dr. Christian do the second
An
one.
got it, one more.
So the first question is, how are we going to work with students that are having a difficult time?
Yes.
Right. So knowing that our students who are English speakers, they may have a difficult time because we have to remember that the core instruction is in Spanish. But teachers are going to be using those strategies and those skills to teach and support our English-only students and not be a translation. Once we start doing translation, then we might as well not have the DLI program, right? So the teachers are going to be using GLAD strategies that will support our English-only students to understand the content.
Just real quick, just expect, if there's not Spanish spoken in the home, and this, and your student has not really been exposed to Spanish before, expect tears and expect headaches. It's hard learning a second language. It's hard at that age, and it's something that their brains are plastic. They can adapt and create new neural pathways. It's going to be really difficult, especially because they're asked to do something they haven't done since birth, and so there will be some growing pains with it. However, what we encourage is let them struggle. It's called productive struggle. Let them go through it. If, however, you get to the point where you say, yeah, this dog ain't gonna hunt, that's fine. You have every right to say, we're gonna go ahead and this is not gonna work for our child. It's just we don't want the drama. We'd rather go back to the English only program. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just there's to use a term from elementary school, there's no backseats. If you decide that the program's not for you and your child, if in 3 weeks, 3 months, there's no, hey, I want to get back in. It's, if you decide you're done, you're done. That's perfectly fine, but we encourage to give students time to work through that.
Okay, now is that for the year, or because I believe that each child is, individual, and what may work for, what may not work for first grade may be a different scenario or situation for second grade or third grade. Are you able to revisit that in the future?
No. Because
you're not.
No, we're not going to revisit the future, because if a child leaves in first grade and then decides in second grade, yeah, we think that the child matured, feels better about it, wants to come back, they've missed all that instruction in Spanish, and so we're not going to revisit that at that time. We might, in a couple of years, change our minds, but like I said, I've been working with DLI programs for a long time, and what has been done consistently across DLI programs across the state is that when a child leaves, that's pretty much all she wrote. Because it's very difficult for a child to come from an English-only background to leave a university program and to try to jump back in and try to make up that lost time.
Just remembering that instruction is occurring in kindergarten and first grade, the base of reading is being taught. So if you're thinking, oh, maybe in third grade, well, they've lost the core instruction in kindergarten, and first grade, and second grade. So that's why Dr. Rich is saying that.
Okay, and that's going to be documented. That's like a per the district guidelines, and it's documented. Okay. And then sorry, but why is it such a?
Well, we didn't get to the second question first, right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're giving it to me, aren't you?
I'm giving it to him.
So the question was, if I remember correctly, is, thank you for giving such softball questions. I really appreciate that. So the second question was about a student in a dual immersion program who also has an IEP. What level of accommodations, modifications, support for the implementation of their IEP is there going to be?
Right.
Basically it?
Yes.
There's going to have to be support in the language for their IEP, acknowledging that as you said, every student's individual, every student learns differently, and especially students with individual education plans, they have some very specific accommodations and modifications that will be in that plan. That will be something for the IEP team to kind of determine how best to go about doing it. And as with all things, it's complicated.
Right.
There's going to be a lot that's going to be involved. And so I've seen, in my experience, I've seen where some parents have decided, it's too complicated, I don't want to deal with that. See, now there's no, we're going to stick with it. And for what we see and what the research bears out, it's like by 4th, 5th, 6th grade, students with IEPs, learning a language is not it's a different pathway, and those students actually do just as well learning a language as any other student does, if accommodations and modifications are put in place correctly.
I agree. It's just a long journey from kindergarten to first grade.
Oh,
to
it is.
or sixth grade. So,
It is. I'm not trying to minimize how hard it's going to be, but it's worth it. And so that's why we're implementing this program. And something to remember too is that this is a general education program. And a student with an IEP has a right to faith. They have a right to a least restricted environment, and also to a free public education. That student has the right to access to any program that any other student would have access to in the district. So we will not exclude students with IEPs from the dual language immersion program. And this is a general education program. It's open to all. And so that student will be there, and we will be implementing their IEPs.
And studies have shown that even that students with IEPs are being successful in a dual language learning class.
Thank you. And I don't see the chart anymore, but I believe for first grade it was 90-10 was the split for instruction.
In the first year.
In the first year. Why is it such a high percentage? Why is it not like more like a 50-50 split?
Because it's awesome. There's lots of different models out there. There's 90-10, there's 80-20, 50-50. The team spent a lot of time discussing that and working through the decision for 90-10 was that if you look at the research, that there is a statistically significant, which means moderately higher, but there's a statistically significant difference in academic achievement and language acquisition in the 90-10 model. And so it's kind of the idea of throw them in. Help them, we're going to throw them in, we're going to be in the pool with them, help them learn how to swim, but we're going to throw them in and get them going. Because you'll see, by around 4th grade, it's amazing, we watch it. Around 4th grade, all of a sudden, they're just English, Spanish popping off. The academic achievement, as measured in Spanish, will be higher than English for the first few years. By around 5th or 6th grade, and especially definitely by 8th grade, it normalizes to where they're usually achieving about the same, both in Spanish and English, as measured by whatever test or assessment system you use.
You know, the team did get an opportunity to go visit a DLI school, and we were in kindergarten, we were in first grade, and those kids, those English-only kids were rising to the occasion. They were being asked, they were responding in Spanish. We went into 3rd grade, the same thing. We went into 4th grade, and kids were responding in Spanish. It was a really neat experience to see that. And that's what we want for all of our kids here in Los Baños too.
Okay, we need to let someone else remind the question. Thank you for your questions.
In the back. While she gets there, you can ask.
For me, it's a little opposite. I have an older son that just missed the opportunity. He's in 2nd grade. So are there any plans to have some sort of after-school program, like let's say implement something in LEAP where there is an option to have bilingualism? Because I know a lot of the LEAP teachers in LEAP are bilingual, but they're not, I don't know if they're allowed, I guess you can say, to be speaking in other languages with the students. Is there something planned for the opportunity so some of the older students can kind of jump in there?
We should have Zach come here for this. Thank you. That's a really good question. At this time, there's not. And as I have 4 kids of my own, and in my district, when they implemented the DLI program, my kids missed it by this much too, so I feel your pain. But at this time, there are no plans for anything late. That's a really good idea, and that's something we can look into, providing some supplemental stuff through the after school.
And another one would be, so as it's increasing, so when they get into middle school, one of the middle schools will already have the option to have an immersion program as well.
Oh, we're growing it. We're doing, but right now we're focused on getting it started here in Los Baños Elementary. But the plan is that this will be a K-12 program. Now, having been a former high school administrator that had a DLI program feed into the school, I can tell you that the kids who are on DLI programs, they're kind of stuck together for a long time, and by the time they get into middle school or junior high and high school, they don't want to be around each other anymore. They want to say, y'all go to your own class, I'm going to go to mine. And so it's very tough to get them to select the immersion classes because they, one of the really the bedrocks of students in junior high and high school is students having a choice of scheduling, and students being allowed to express their will with that. And so that's something that we will be addressing, but we haven't worked out the kinks because, quite frankly, we've got about 6 years So with that, we will be working on that. But as I said, this is going to be a K-12 program. We will grow this to where the dual immersion students will be able to start in kinder and walk out with seal by literacy, with their seniors.
She doesn't want to give back. It's just what I wanted to make sure, because I don't want them to, like, by the time they get into high school where they're required to take Spanish class, where they're put, like, in just a regular beginner Spanish class, and they're studying board, so.
No, and that's, you would expect a student who would hit high school, if a student's been in a dual language immersion program all the way through 8th grade, you would expect that in high school, they would be taking Spanish for Spanish speakers. They would also be taking the Spanish, AP Spanish language and the AP Spanish literature courses. Plus, there would be an option of having a core content class such as math, social studies, or science, also taught in Spanish. But that's something that, as we have to plan out.
I'm receiving a seal of biliteracy.
Yes.
And receiving their seal of biliteracy when they graduate from high school. We already have that at the high schools, where students can test for their seal of biliteracy. So it's already going on at the high school level. Junior high is really going to be our connecting piece from elementary to high school.
Any grade in high school, or is it like a junior or senior thing?
They get it their senior year, they take a test, they go through a whole interview process where they're being asked, I got to be with the interviewer, and they answer the question, they were asked the questions in Spanish, and they respond in Spanish. So it's very neat.
So how many classes are there going to be initially? Like for kindergarten, is there going to be 2 immersion classes in first grade?
2 kinder, 2 first grade.
Okay. And so my daughter's going into first grade. If she doesn't, is it strictly lottery or is it first come, first served?
Strictly lottery.
Okay, so if she doesn't get in going into first grade, could she apply going into second grade if that makes sense? Or is it just...
Well, she'll be put on the wait list depending on where she's at. She may get in first grade.
Okay, but in the chance that she doesn't, I'm saying, because I know he said it was strictly, like once you're in type of thing.
Right, so no, we won't be taking kids in second grade.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So is this only for students that only speak one language, or would it be, for example, my son, we speak to him in Spanish at home, but he is having a hard time like communicating with his teacher in English. Would this be for my son?
Absolutely, it's for all students.
Okay, and he's in kinder right now, so then this would go for first grade. Okay.
Basically, if your student's reading, we want them. Please go ahead and if you're interested, submit your child in the lottery, and if you get chosen, fantastic.
We want all of our kids to be bilingual, bicultural, bilingual.
It is amazing. We went to Riverbank. That was a visit that Ms. Moreno was talking about. We went a couple weeks ago and got to see TK, because they have a TK program, which we're not offering. Sorry, you're like, TK, and so we got to see TK to 6th grade, and it was amazing to see the students reading, writing, speaking fluently in Spanish, and then talking to each other in, like their peers in English, but when they had to do a presentation or talk to the teacher, it was always in Spanish. I was just amazed, because I'm not bilingual. I wish I was. I wish my kids had an opportunity to go through this program, but they're too old now. It's an amazing opportunity for our students.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, I don't speak Spanish, so if my daughter got put in this program, how would I support her at home? I mean, we read every night, but I would be reading in English. If she's doing 90% Spanish at school, how do I support her?
Just like that. We continue to read in their primary language. We read to them, we talk to them at home, we support them through their primary language.
Okay. And then will there be like some sort of resources if she's having trouble in Spanish, how would I help her at home when she's learning or her work is in Spanish?
So the work that they get at home will be to review what they have already mastered and practice. They're just going to practice at home. So the way you can support your child is encouraging them, asking how did it go? What was your best part of the day? And having those conversations. One of the great things about English and Spanish is that so much transfers. You know, the transfer is just very smooth, and I don't want to say effortlessly, because those of us that had to learn a second language, it took us work, but it's that dedication and that time and that effort and that being positive on your part as a parent, you know, you can do this, will help.
Do we know what school's gonna start this program?
Where's he coming from? Okay.
I couldn't find the person either.
I couldn't find you. So it will be starting here at LBE.
So if my student goes here, is it a bigger chance that they will get in?
No. This is a district-wide program, so it is open to any district student, whether they're here, whether they're Volta, or Charleston, or Westside. That's why it's a lottery.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to talk a second about academic language. As they get into 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and they start having to take the state test, I'm assuming they're still taking that in English. So during that time, I know that you're increasing the English language instruction, and that model starts to kind of even out. Is it, so now the English, the ELD block is gonna be all in English so that they are able to master those skills on the state test? Like, how does that look in terms of English and math when we go to state testing?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. The simple answer is don't worry. Because in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, quite frankly, when students are in DLI programs, we're not really worrying about where they fall on the state test. Because in a DLI program, the goal is to have fluency in 2 different languages. You're not going to see it really evening out in terms of academic achievement. Students in a 90-10 model should be scoring higher academically in Spanish all the way through about 4th or 5th grade. Then you'll start to see it start to come about equal. By about 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, you'll see them both right about the same level of academic achievement, both English and Spanish.
So that concerns me just when you said about 8th grade, because at that point I'm already looking at, you know, then you're looking at pre-AP, AP classes. Is that going to hinder then what they're picking or selecting or being able to go for?
No, because that is a school policy. And students are coming from, there is no state mandate for you have to score level 4 on the CAS in order to go to AP, whatever. No.
Will they have enough of that academic vocabulary in English to be able to go take an AP European history class in 9th grade?
Yes. I can tell you, like I said, I've worked with DLI programs for years, and we had a charter school that was a DLI K-8 that fed into the high school. Students invariably that came into the high school, I was the one in charge of scheduling for much of my career there. Those students invariably all came in taking honors classes. And that was EO and EL students, because they were both, that academic language was there, because that was stressed from day one. It transferred. The great thing about learning another language at a young age is that you create more neural pathways. Students had basically more bandwidth to be able to think than otherwise they would have had, a larger vocabulary than they would have otherwise had, which all that translates into success academically in either language. And so I can tell you from both the research and also from my own experience, there was never had any qualms about students that came in from high school.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know you mentioned the part about there can be a lot of tiers, especially for children who might be English only. Will there be a social emotional component built in to kind of manage those feelings?
Yes, that's actually something that we're trying to do for all students, have support. We've hired additional counselors at all school sites. But yes, there will be a social emotional piece in there. And there will be one of the things that students will be talking about, that will be addressed with students, is about resiliency and how to push through, and how to also, it's okay to feel frustrated, it's okay to feel sad when things aren't quite going your way or when it's hard. But that it's something that you can continue, as you continue to work at it, you will get better, and you will be able to see accomplishments. Also, a big part of this program is celebrating the small wins. So when students can start to say, count to 10 in Spanish, where they can do their ABCs, where they can go ahead and, like, we walked in and students were doing a song in Spanish. I can't remember what the song is now, but you had all EL student, you could tell who was who. They're all singing it together. And this was a kindergarten class. students will rise to the level you expect of them. And so, like I said, there will be some headaches, there will be some tears, but students will be able to do it.
You know, when I asked one of the little boys when we were in the first grade class, and they were doing, it was the Spanish time, and I asked him in English, "What are you doing?" So he proceeded to speak to me in Spanish. This is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it in Spanish. I thought, whoops. So they are learning it. It is difficult to begin with, but the support of the teachers and the instructional aides, and again, the social emotional piece that we provide will help them.
Okay, so this may not pertain right now, because I'm wanting my daughter to really get in, but let's say she doesn't, and then my son comes up down the road. If he gets in, does she get to come to LBE? Have both kids at the same site?
Gotcha. I see where you're going with that now. Okay, you're not.
If I have an older kid that's not in the program, and let's say she gets in, does the older kid get to come here as well and transfer? So I have all the kids at the same site.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Sowersby, but I think that's what I want.
The district's policy is that we keep families together. And as long as there's room, we'll be working with LBE to ensure that families stay together, especially for the opportunity to participate in the DLI program. That's very important to us. We do not like to split families at all possible. Sometimes it can't be helped. Why there's only so many rooms to this campus and each grade level, if we can accommodate, we will. So we'll do our best to accommodate and keep families together, because that's always been our priority, especially at my office when we get a phone call. We always want to make sure the families stay together.
Yes.
So one of my concerns is that our child is already learning another language. So I'm afraid that it'll be overload, because then it would be a trilingual situation versus a bilingual. Are there any studies on children who are already coming into the program with another language?
Yes, there are actually. Man, you guys are great questions tonight. This is awesome. This is better than any questions I ever had about this. So the short answer to that is yes, there are studies, and it's overwhelmingly positive. In fact, the program that we went to review over in Riverman, California Avenue Elementary, it actually is a trilingual program where they have 90-10 Spanish and English starting on kinder or TK, and then by the time they get to third grade, they start introducing Mandarin. And then by the end, and no, we're not planning on doing that right now. I was gonna say, we're just trying to get this going, guys. That's kind of complicated. But by the time the student gets into about 8th grade, that student is receiving lessons in Mandarin. And so when they leave the goal, by the time they graduate high school, it's that they're fully fluent in English, fully fluent in Spanish, and that they are literate and professionally fluent in Mandarin. And so trilingualism is possible. It's just there's a little bit more you have to do with it. If a student's already learning another language, already knows another language, that's actually a really good thing, because that means that, just full disclosure, I speak Spanish, and I'll tell you guys, whenever I hear anyone speak a different language, I have some friends who speak Mandarin, Korean, other languages, the moment they speak another language, I think in Spanish. And I don't know if anyone's had that experience who's bilingual, but it's because your neural pathways are set up that the moment you hear another language, you immediately start using the pathways that you already developed and creating, being able to learn a new language. And so someone who has learned another language or has more capability in another language than their dominant language, they've already actually began to create those pathways to where they'll be able to learn that much quicker. And so it's actually, there will be some confusion. Sometimes you'll hear a little kind of a mess, well, I see I'm doing it in Spanish now, a little mix up of like 3 different languages. But that's okay. That's how they're going to learn, that's how they're going to grow, and that's all about making connections within their mind.
And if your child comes home and starts using some words in Spanish here and there, it's not that they're confused, it's that they're practicing the vocabulary that they're learning at school. So that's okay. Any other questions?
My question is that since there's no recruitment each year, is there any, with the other programs you've seen at other school districts, that if there's enough people who drop out, that at some point you don't have enough students to support a full class dedicated to that at, like, say, the 6th, 7th, 8th grade level, or it's at some point there's no diminishing, like, return to the district to staff that.
So basically, if you're, like, the other question I'm hearing not spoken there is that if we start it, are we gonna finish it? And is this gonna keep going? Yeah.
And nobody keeps coming in, that's that class.
From my experience, no, it hasn't happened. I've been part, like I said, I was on a dual language immersion charter board, and I was there when they started another program in the district, and one of my good friends started a full, dual language immersion in elementary school, where they started 4 white and kinder, just grew every year. He still had a wait list. By when they finished, they were at K-8, and when they got to 8th grade, he still had a wait list of hundreds of students. In fact, the district actually opened a second dual language immersion elementary school to be able to keep up with the demand. That was a series. Turlock has a program. Pretty much anywhere if you go, Stans County, San Joaquin County, Merced, you're going to find that in dual language immersion programs, there's a high demand. Like when we first sent out our survey, we had 157 responses, and that was just on a first glance survey, which, as the person who sends out surveys, I'm so sorry, I'm the one who's bombarding your emails, I apologize for that. But the person who sends out surveys, to have 157 people not only respond positively, that's impossible. We don't get that. I get a lot of survey responses back of, they looked at it and said, yeah, no. And so to have that response just the first go out, no, there's a demand. And I fully anticipate that we're going to have a high demand every year that we offer this program.
Just to follow up on that, we're very committed to this program. It's something that we've wanted for a long time. The whole DLI team that's up here that you met tonight, it's something that we're very passionate about and we want to see continue and grow. So it's just not something that we thought of yesterday. It's something that I'm very passionate about, want to see it continue. I know I'm going to see it for the rest of my career. I've got a long ways to go. Others are closer to retirement than others. But I will be here, and hopefully, 6 or 7 years from now, we'll be talking about that class going into the junior high school. And then, another 2 years from now, the ones going to high school. So we're very committed, something I've wanted for a long time. I don't speak Spanish. I'm not one of those people. And just to comment on, I forget who else said it, but if your child comes home again and is using Spanish words, please do it. My daughter's taking a Spanish class at high school, and we have conversations at the dinner table. She uses Spanish words. I don't know all of them. I know some, but it's a good thing. Let your kids practice.
And it's not the bad words, right?
I hope not.
So we thank you for coming. I know that you may have more questions. Feel free to come up to anybody in the team. They can answer your questions. This will be posted on our website. Give us a few days. And we will have another informational night if you choose to come. So thank you all for coming. We have cookies in the back. Please feel free to take cookies and the informational papers that we have